So hot damn, the Nintendo Switch is on a roll. Less than 2 years, it has sold over 32 million copies. It is setting all kinds of records, both for Nintendo and for the gaming industry as a whole, and it's got a fantastic lineup set for 2019. And investors were panicking because it didn't hit a lofty sales goal. EA's latest Battlefield managed to sell pretty well despite all the controversy surrounding it, pushing over 7 million copies worldwide. And stocks took a nosedive because it wasn't enough and EA was just recently bailed out by Apex Legends. Okay. And then we have Call of Duty Black Ops 4, which made over $500 million in just 3 days. Let me repeat that, over $500 million revenue in just 3 days. And Activision investors were disappointed because it wasn't the best-selling one in the series. Yeah, all of these companies are actually doing exceptionally well, and yet investors are panicking because they're not doing as well as one could possibly conceive. Oh, investors, you are now officially the cancer of the gaming industry. Seriously. So yeah, this is the latest trend that people have started to realize about the gaming industry. We've already spent a long time talking about how the executives at the large publishers are very greedy bastards most of the time, but there's an even bigger problem than them, and that is the investors that put stock into these companies. Why? Because they literally do nothing. All they do is put their money into a business and expect it to grow indefinitely. But not just grow, no. Oh no, that's not enough. Guys like Jim Sterling, Yang Ye, and even Rich Review Tech USA have gone on about how stability isn't just enough for these companies, they need to see indefinite growth. But even that's not enough really, growing year after year is not enough. I mean, take a look at Nintendo. Their stocks took a nosedive when they slashed their sales goal of 20 million units to 17. I mean, really, come on, 20 million Switch units sold in a year. That was a lofty sales goal to set. That would put it to be like the greatest selling system ever in a fiscal year. That was definitely like a stretch goal of all stretch goals. 17 is still a lofty goal. It looks much more reasonable, but the thing is, the Switch is still one of the fastest selling systems of all time. It's breaking all sorts of records. In less than 2 years, it has surpassed lifetime sales of the Wii U and the GameCube. In fact, as of the time of this video, I guarantee it surpassed the N64 because the official sales were just right behind the N64 as of January 1st. The system already has 5 games that have sold over 10 million units. It's got the best-selling 3D Mario game of all time, the best-selling Zelda game of all time, and yet investors are panicking because one little sales goal wasn't met when Nintendo is still honestly doing the best it's done in years. You can't deny that. I mean, after the run of the Wii U, can you really say that Nintendo is struggling? No. Nintendo's doing the best it's done in years. But as soon as investors hear the one projection wasn't met, no matter how insane or crazy it was, despite how well the company's doing, they will still flee when inevitably the value of the company still gotta be going up. I mean, the company's doing, like I said, better than it has in a long time. Just because a sales goal wasn't met doesn't mean that it's doom and gloom and then all of a sudden Nintendo is struggling again. What it's basically saying is, oh yeah, we predicted something incredibly difficult and we didn't quite get there, but we still did really well, and investors are still like, oh, nope, time to pack up and leave. And then one might wonder, well, how does this affect us gamers? What does it actually have to do with us? And well, I'll tell you. You see, normally, just because investors are fleeing, I wouldn't normally give a damn because I just want to play video games, but the problem is, executives at these publishing companies are doing whatever they can to please investors and keep them around. I mean, let's be honest, that is why microtransactions exist as much as they do. That's why you've got games coming out with 20 different versions that just get more and more expensive. That's why games are going live service now with recurrent user spending. Let's be real, all of these things exist for one reason and one reason only, and that's to try and milk as much money out of consumers as possible to keep investors happy. Because the honest truth is that games at the AAA level still make tons of money just through pushing sales, just through pushing the game itself. But it's not enough for investors because it's not constantly shattering records all of the time. And it's just ridiculous. And yeah, I know there are a lot of people out there who are discussing these issues, but more people need to be discussing these issues because they are a big problem for the game industry. I don't care what anybody says. They are nothing but bad for the consumer. Consumers are the ones that suffer when investors aren't happy. But do you think executives get punished? No. I mean, one of the hot topics lately is that Activision is probably getting ready to lay off hundreds of people as a means to cut cost, while they just hired a CFO and gave them $15 million worth of incentives before they've even done anything. Seriously, the CFO didn't even do anything except get hired, and he's already got $15 million worth of incentives, and that's not even counting his base pay salary. And this is why I've honestly gotten tired of listening to the arguments of corporate defenders. Yes, companies exist to make money, and yes, companies need to make money in order to keep doing business. But these companies are making millions upon millions, no, not even millions, billions of dollars every year. They are not struggling, they are not strapped for cash, they are not desperate to find ways to cut costs because they're going to close their doors otherwise. The problem is that all they're trying to do is make investors and themselves richer. Can anybody really say with a straight face that microtransactions in every online game are necessary, the multiple versions of a game at launch are necessary, the multiple season passes are necessary, when Red Dead Redemption 2 pushed 17 million units in its first 2 weeks, when Call of Duty Black Ops 4 made $500 million in just 3 days. So next time you hear somebody go on and on about how games are just too expensive to make these days and all of these things are necessary, just remind them of all these records. Remind them that while Activision is trying to cut costs by letting go of employees, it's hiring a new CFO and giving them $15 million before they've even done anything for the company. And this is something that I've actually got to respect Nintendo for. Unlike other companies, when their stocks dive, they don't immediately panic and do whatever they can to get it back at the expense of the consumer. In fact, Nintendo executives have been known to take pay cuts during rough financial periods so that they don't have to let go of employees. They actually take responsibility for their decisions and for their failures. Unlike companies like, say, Activision or EA, who will blame anything but themselves. And the sad thing is, I don't know what it's going to take for anything to change, because as these stocks go lower, companies do whatever they must in order to get them back, and it just becomes a vicious cycle. In all honesty, the only thing I can see is a future where somehow something causes the likes of these massive companies to go under, and then smaller companies rise to the top and hopefully don't fall under the same poison and start doing the exact same thing. All I can say is that right now, both executives and investors alike suck. They really do nothing for the industry except hurt it in order to line their own pockets. And if karma ever comes their way, if something ever befalls the likes of them so that they end up suffering for these, situations, then I won't feel sorry for them at all. I feel sorry for developers when studios get closed. I even sometimes feel bad for mid-level management because a lot of these decisions are out of their hands. But if something bad ever happens to these greedy, manipulative executives and these lazy investors who literally do nothing but expect their money to grow and grow and grow, I don't feel any sympathy for them if something bad happens. The one glimmer of hope that I see is that lately backlash has become much more common when companies really try to push the envelope as far as they can. I honestly hope the backlash against games like Battlefront 2 and Fallout 76 keep up, because eventually it will leave a big enough impact on these companies that something is forced to change. Some people say that these things are inevitable, but no. Things are not inevitable if enough people take a stand. Right now, I'm glad that more and more people are taking a stand and leaving more of an impact on the industry, because If enough people do stop buying into these practices, if enough people do decide enough is enough, things will change, and these companies will be forced to change their ways. So all I can say to my fellow gamers is stay alert and don't accept bad practices. If a game is making a greedy decision, if you can tell that executives are just doing whatever they can with a game to make more money for themselves, don't buy it because it's not worth it. It'll just make things worse in the long run. If enough games are boycotted, if enough games sell badly because we do not put up with this stuff anymore, things will change. So gamers, keep it up and keep going against these decisions.